And today is our second community dialogue. We had one last week. And as we're all together online, just a reminder that your microphones will be muted. If you want to speak, you can raise a hand at the relevant time or use the chat. If possible, please put your camera on so we could see you if you're making a contribution, certainly if you can. Feel free to use the chat to introduce yourself or ask questions. If you can also rename yourself, that would be helpful, or your organization. And lastly, just a reminder, we have French, English, and Spanish interpretation during the event. So you can choose the language to follow. And another option is you can mute the original language and just hear that language as it's spoken or translated. And a reminder to everybody, myself, presenters, and anybody contributing, please try to speak slowly to help our wonderful interpretation colleagues help each other. Excellent. Thank you very much. Today, as I said, is the second State of Data dialogue, following on from last week. We're going to hear from the IATI Executive Director, Yemi, for some open remarks and welcomes. I'll do a very quick recap about last week, so we've got a bit more context about what we talked about last week. And then the focus of today is three demos of colleagues and projects that are using in artificial intelligence and IATI in some way. So we'll have a contribution from BMZ and ChecKI, which looks at the data input. And then a colleague, Alap, will present AidInsights. And then colleagues from the DevExplorer via FCDO will demonstrate their project. For each demo, there'll be a short time to ask questions and clarifications. And then at the end, we'll have a bit of a wider discussion about IATI and artificial intelligence. We're really looking forward to this, and we'll wrap up in 90 minutes. Okay. First of all, Yemi, thank you for joining us, and we have over 60 people with us now in the room. So yeah, over to Yemi for some remarks and a welcome. Would be very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stephen, and very good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are joining us. It's an absolute delight, of course, and an honor for me to welcome you for the second of the series, the State of the Data series. We called it Dialogue, as Stephen highlighted earlier on, and this is the second one. It's a pleasure to welcome you, and thank you for joining us in a very great number. So my remark is going to be very brief. Allow me to be brief because we have quite an exciting agenda ahead of us. So I wouldn't want to take much of the time speaking. So this is a follow-up, of course, from last week, where we have actually had a discussion about the links in the era of AI, the document links in the era of AI. So we have had a good discussion as to what we have in our database in IATI, and over 500,000 documents are there, and what they look like and what is possible in terms of use case using this information has been discussed last week. So this week, we're actually focusing on the real demonstration and application of the same using artificial intelligence. And I wanted to thank the presenters who have kindly agreed to do the demonstrations for us. This is a very important moment for IATI. As you all know, we are actually designing our next strategic plan from 2026-2030, where we are actually really reaching unprecedented time. Our data quality has improved significantly. Data use cases have increased significantly in a systematic manner. And we also noticed that the aid landscape has changed significantly, where aid is fragmented. The way in which it is delivered has actually changed significantly, and we would need to do much more to really drive significant impact in development cooperation. So noting this change that is taking place and the importance of data in making decisions, I think we couldn't have been in a better place than today to discuss the way in which we can use IATI data, particularly including not only the quantitative data, but also qualitative information that we have in our data portal to make decisions. So this is something that we have been longing for to generate insights, and we're going to start getting that gold mine actually being really harnessed. So this is the way we're looking at it, and this is the future. The future has come for IATI.
Thank you, Yemi. I think maybe Yemi may have been cut off quickly. But thank you. I think we all heard and appreciated the opening and remark and the welcome. I will carry on. Can everyone see my screen still, Annalisa? Yep. Okay.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you, Yemi. I think Yemi may join us again there. There's quite an abrupt end, but okay, I'll carry on.
Yes, she's fallen off the call, but I'm sure
Okay.
she'll come in as soon as she can.
So today we're carrying on, and we're looking particularly about how we're using, our colleagues are using artificial intelligence to unlock this potential of IATI data, including the document links, but also other parts too. So just a quick recap about last week. We had a call this time last week, and we looked very precisely and specifically at IATI and these links to documents. Just so we're aware, IATI data includes lots of links to documents that are published already on the web somewhere. So here on the left is an example of an FCDO IATI activity. As you can see, links to documents, business cases, other things. And on the right-hand side is the IATI XML, where some of you may be familiar about how we make that data in the using the IATI standard. So that's always happened over the past 15 years. And we looked last week about how many of these documents are there. For example, here's a couple of examples of the types of documents that are linked to evaluation documents in French or evaluation documents in English, and many other types as well. What we found when we shared some research, that looked at the wealth of those document links last week. I think Simon will share a link to the research notebook. Thank you, Simon. So do have a look after this call if you haven't already. We found looked more precisely at those document links, how many of them, who shares them, what are they about, what types are there, and it was really interesting, and we had a very interesting discussion about that. There were some very pertinent points. For example, when we looked and tried to access many of these document links, a great majority were available, but some were forbidden, broken, not there. And that did raise some concerns, some discussions about how we collectively work together to make sure that this information is still available, so that, as we hear today, people can use it and give us better insights. On IATI Connect, we've opened a couple of discussions, and I think again Simon will share the link. And yeah, a couple of discussions that we thought came out of the dialogue last week about the document links and the IATI standard. So if you know the IATI standard or you use it, please help us with that discussion there. As you can see, nobody has responded just yet, but I appreciate people will need time. But let's have a discussion there. And then there was another one about AI and document discussions as well. So please use and join us in IATI Connect to further the discussion as well. Today we're going to learn and hear about 3 projects that are using IATI data and AI, and really understand how useful is the IATI standard to these projects, what could we learn and understand, and obviously learn a bit more about the projects themselves. So we'll be hearing first of all from BMZ, who use a tool to improve their IATI data using AI, and then a colleague from AidInsights, which is a new project that uses AI to get better insights with the IATI data, and finally colleagues from Frontier, Tech Hub and FCDO, who will show us how they use those document links that we talked about last week. We also, because we appreciate AI is a new topic relatively, we've prepared a very short glossary. Thank you, Simon. Simon shared that in English, French and Spanish. So some of the key terms that you may hear today or may discover later on, we've tried to explain in our context. And of course, yes, we used ChatGPT to create this. Yes, hands up. And also, just as a quick aside, I've been involved in IATI for a long, long time. Just last week, I was asking ChatGPT to make me some IATI data, and it did it really quickly, a bit too quickly, but it really did it very well. And I was trying to think, why is this working so well? And we have to think and congratulate ourselves that we have a data standard, we have a schema, we have lots of data, we have lots of people talking about that. And I think that's a real benefit, that we can really begin to see or imagine some of the possibilities. And in my case, just making XML without having to write XML. So that was quite interesting. And again, we'll learn a bit more. But we really think the infrastructure that we have around IATI that we've built together is vital to this. So as you hear from colleagues and their projects, and as we have a discussion later on, I think just 3 questions to bear in mind, to think about IATI and AI. Think about, how is the IATI standard useful here to these projects or other things? How is this wonderful thing that we've created really helpful? What things could we do together? What things could we do to further help this? And lastly, but most importantly, how do we work together when we discuss AI and build projects together? How can we achieve that? So I'd like you to think about those 3 things when we come to the discussion. Okay. That's for later. So I'm going to stop screen sharing now. I'm going to pass to Fabio from BMZ and Frederick, who will talk about the ChecKI. And I don't know if I've got the correct pronunciation there, Fabio, so please let me know. I'm going to stop screen sharing and pass over to you to do so. And we're really looking forward to this. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. And thanks also, Yemi, before. Can you already see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, and I can definitely second what you just said, Stephen, on the IATI standard and AI. I think for us, at least, it really proved to be a big benefit, to rely on IATI data when we pilot different AI tools. So today we are presenting one tool we are currently working on. So we're working on a myriad of tools. And this is one of the tools we are currently working on, and we're very delighted to be here. And we are presenting ChecKI. And if you wonder how ChecKI might look like, ChecKI might look like this, or also differently, but also pertaining to the name, we'll come back to this. And yeah, we are from the German Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development. So maybe just going one step back, and I think I already alluded to it. So for us, IATI is really something, or being part, of the IATI and of the community, really has proven to be a big benefit. And since we've been after all this discussion in Accra, Busan, Paris, etc., we've been one of the founding members. It really has been proven to be very much enshrined into our, I would say, ministry DNA. And we use it daily, for our policy making, for looking into what we are currently working on, but also recently also more and more when it comes to AI. And the issue we are trying to address here is really the issue of data quality. And we believe that data quality makes a big difference in how we are working, how we are communicating on our projects. And actually, when you talk about data quality, I think it's really this one issue everyone can agree upon. I think everyone would say, yeah, data quality is great and we should do it. But, actually, it's oftentimes harder than we thought it would be. I mean, it really needs to be embedded in the data, in the culture of an organization, in the willingness, and it really entails everything from inputting data to the output, thinking about data quality. And it also requires training and awareness raising, and it's definitely an effort. I mean, Frederick and I, we work as data scientists at our organizations, but it really needs a more collaborative effort. I think it needs to be needs to be something everyone has to think about. And definitely, if you have good data quality, and today we talk about the descriptions of our projects, it helps also with AI applications. I mean, you all know perhaps the saying garbage in, garbage out, right? And I think this is really visible when it comes to AI. But also when you look from the other side, AI can also actually help improving the data quality. And that's what we are talking about today. And we are specifically talking about project descriptions, right? Which is a field in the IATI standard, as you perhaps know. And the challenges we sometimes encounter is really that some of the project descriptions, they were not comprehensible, they were a bit ambiguous. And this sometimes led, in the past, also on social media, to some, I would say, misrepresentations of some, project description that we're having, and even it could cause reputational damage to our organization, since some of the project descriptions have not been clear, have been misleading, perhaps entailed some words that were not clear, or willingly also put into the wrong context. But for us, the premise is really that project descriptions are the business card of any project, and the descriptions, they need to be understandable for people with and without development cooperation experience. So oftentimes, we working in development cooperation, we have our own terms, our own expressions, but I think we also need to make an effort to also folks who are not working in this field understand what we actually do and how we spend also taxpayers' money. And of course, we wouldn't be a German ministry if we didn't have our proper procedure information. It's called, and I read it out, the Verfahrensinformation Nummer 090, Anleitung zur Erstellung von Maßnahmenbezeichnung und Maßnahmenbeschreibung. Well, you don't need to remember that. But actually what it entails is, it defines 7 categories, formal ones and more content ones, how a project description should look like, right? And this is really came actually to our help when we tried to tell the AI, and Frederick will show this in a minute, how it should assess project descriptions. And we'll share the slides later. And our proposal is a tool called ChecKI. And sorry, it's a bit awkward, I guess, to explain the joke, but the KI at the end stands for AI in German. So there should be a meaning behind it, but it should be, the idea is basically that it's an AI support application that evaluates projects and provides quick and concrete feedback for improvement. And it should be, a service for our colleagues, but also for implementing organizations just as KfW or GIZ. And yeah, as I said before, it's also a foundation, good project description for further AI applications. So what's in it? And I'll be brief on it. We do an analysis with AI. We have, a user-friendly front-end application that you will see in a second, but we also can use it. We also have a back-end application where we basically also can feed much more descriptions into it and get also a score how they, based on the 7 categories that I showed before, how they are being rated using the AI. We are currently working on putting it on a new government platform. So this will hopefully happen this month or latest next month, and also trying to embed a better model. So Frederick will talk on this. We use now an open model, but perhaps we'll take GPT-4.1 as of next month. Yeah, and it should also be included into our IT setup basically. So what's behind it? I'm very brief here also. I think you've seen it also last week. We also use the Streamlit app. We use like this government platform. Now we use the Mistral model, and then most likely next month, this month, next month, we use GPT-4.1. And these are the different Python packages. And if you have any questions on those, I'm happy to have a chat afterwards. And I think without further ado, I will hand over to my colleague Frederick, who will give you a short demo.
Yeah,
Frederick?
thanks, Fabio. Let me quickly share my screen. So now you should see my screen.
Yeah, something's coming up. It's still just a sec. It's still black.
Oh, wait a second. So now it's maximized. I cannot make it any bigger. So there you can see ChecKI. It's the web-based basically page where you can enter a project description, or copy paste your description that you just wrote in there. So you can write in there, but you can also just copy paste everything in there what you want. And that's basically we have one page, and that's where you land. You have an example there. It's directly written. It's AI-based evaluation that our two divisions are running. And so it has this field where you can put everything in, and then you can run some analysis along these guidelines that we have in our Verfahrensinformation, in our information about this field. So we have formal criteria and content-wise criteria, and here you can see it counts the number of signs that are in the text, and it checks if there are abbreviations or is sensitive content in there. So we have these formal things in there. And content-wise, we have this context, we have activities, we have objectives of the measure, and we have understandability, and we have a score that is like in this bar chart there, and we have also explanations for our evaluations. And just to show you how this whole thing works, I just copy in a new text in there, and I hope you can see that because it's running on my computer, but I feel like you cannot see it on the shared screen. Can you see it? The new text that has been put in there?
It appears your screen is frozen for some reason.
Oh, wait a second. So I just jump back and share again. I don't know why it stopped sharing. Oh, wait a second. So I guess it stopped somewhere here. So I copy paste a shorter description in there, which is worse from what we think. And then on the top corner, you can see it's running, it's analyzing. And then we can look at the results that we get from our tool. So we have the shorter description there. And it actually says this measure has no objectives. So it's artificially bad. And actually we get a bad evaluation. We have many abbreviations that our tool detects that we shouldn't use in our project descriptions, and we actually get this bad content-wise evaluation of our measure. So we get like bad scores that are also indicated by the colors of the bar plot, and we have explanations for why our scores are so bad in this example. So it adapts automatically to the different descriptions, and there's one showstopper as well implemented. So if we put in the very short description that we still have in our data sets, so people have these super short descriptions, we directly get the showstopper that says, okay, this is too little words to a short description, and then it directly stops analyzing and gives you the feedback. That's not the formal criteria that we have. So that's ChecKI. That's what ChecKI does. I hope it was not too quick. And I guess I stop sharing my screen. And we give the floor back to the other presenters, I guess.
Thank you, Fabio. Thank you, Frederick. And a live demo, always appreciated. Thank you. We have a few moments for questions from anybody directly or clarifications about this. If I have the privilege to start, Fabio, Frederick, how has this been received by colleagues in the ministry? Is it been welcomed and led to improvement, or has take up been a challenge?
Let me maybe have a take on this. I think, I mean, AI is, as I guess in every organization, one of the things everyone is thinking about. So having AI applications is also something that's requested and required also by the hierarchy. Nonetheless, I mean, here we're also talking about things that, where your daily business is kind of being interrupted. So hitherto, there was like no one looking into how you set up your project description, how how this was written, and now this AI is giving you kind of feedback, and sometimes even critical feedback, maybe even telling you perhaps you should leave the bubble or the development cooperation bubble that you're navigating in, making things more structured, using words that's understandable for everyone. So I think it's a fine balance, right? And we are still like in the process of figuring out how to best address it. I think once, perhaps even taking advantage of the current AI, I would say revolution, but on the other hand, of course, like seeing how the disruption it also causes can be seen in a positive light. And yeah, I mean, I guess that's what we are daily working on with trainings, with awareness raising, etc., also with other colleagues from other units that do specifically also this. I know, Frederick, whether you want to add to this.
No, it was a good summary. It's always hard to take the time, because it's hard for us to actually get the time to implement all this stuff. But as soon as you have it, especially the hierarchy loves it, but it's hard for everybody to incorporate new steps in their routines. I guess that's a natural thing that humans don't like.
Thank you. We were really keen to hear from you today, because you're looking at the data input, looking at data quality as it's produced, and it was really interesting and helpful. I wonder, we have some moments if anybody has a question or clarification or would like this in their organization. Has anybody got a question? I appreciate the first one is always the nervous one. Anybody out there? How many people? We have 73 people. Surely somebody has a question for Fabio or Frederick about this use of AI to produce IATI data. Bill, thank you. First question last week as well, Bill. And then we've got Henry, sorry. So Bill first of all, and then Henry, and then we'll move to our next one. Thank you.
I think I missed in the beginning. How did you train the model to produce something to your particular needs? This isn't just ChatGPT deciding for itself what something should look like, yeah?
Yeah, I can also. Frederick, do you want to take a step on this one?
I can. What we basically use here is like few shot prompting. So we have a few shots in the background that we give the LLM, and so we basically use the vanilla LLM, and then we give them some examples and evaluation in the correct form how we want to have it, and then we receive the evaluation. It's not a big thing in the back. It's super easy AI application, I think. It's a pipeline that people can really build, and then it's more work to design the web interface and to set it up in such a manner that people like to use it actually. So the AI in the background is super easy and basic. Fabio, if you want to add something.
And if I can just add on this, Bill, I mean, so this is, as Frederick said, this is like more of a pure AI applications, but also what we're working with and, trying to pilot more and more, also try to embed in our processes. It's like so-called rack systems, right? Where you have also lots of material from our organization in the background. So the LLM is basically using these documents, right, to provide you an answer, and then also citing where the large language model found the specific citation or this loop. That's also something we're doing more and more. I guess in a few years, there will be this all-encompassing model or agent that will make the work for us. But as I said in the beginning, right now we're having our, I don't know, I think Frederick, we counted the different applications we're currently working on with other teams, and I think we have more than 12 to 15. So yeah, I guess that's one approach that we are taking, and also trial and error, right? Some applications works, some works, other don't.
Thank you, and I think let's also on Connect, Frederick, record some of the details about the project for people to discuss as well. Some of those technical details that'd be really helpful. We have a hand up from Henri and Cos, and so I welcome Henri first of all.
Oui, merci. Bienvenue, je vais m'exprimer en français. Je suis de la Banque africaine de développement. Donc, en fait, j'avais une question sur l'utilisation de cet outil-là. Je voulais demander, c'est juste pour la description du projet, dans le descriptif du projet, où il va jusqu'à aller plus loin, comme la note conceptuelle du projet, avec différents critères à prendre en compte et tout ça. Voilà, c'était un peu ça ma question.
I can give a quick. Je peux aussi le faire en français. Donc, oui, merci pour la question. De toute façon, ce que nous, on utilise là pour notre application, c'est évidemment, c'est que la description. Donc, comme je dis avant, pour des autres systèmes qu'on utilise, on utilise aussi, on utilise plus que ça, aussi plus de champs de IATI, comme le ODA, Policy Marker, etc. Mais là, pour notre projet, c'est que la description. Parce que c'est aussi, à la fin, c'est ça, le champ utilise, au moins, genre le policy makers, ceux qui travaillent dans le gouvernement, etc. Parce que c'est vraiment la première approche ou le premier chemin pour comprendre qu'est-ce qui se passe dans un projet. Donc, c'est pour ça qu'on utilise ça.
Ok, merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Henri. Thank you, Fabio. Over to Cos next, and then I'll have to move to the next presentation. So I see that Espor has a hand up, but let's come to that later on. So over to you, Cos, next for a question, and then we'll go to AidInsights as time is pressing. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I just wanted to position this within the process of preparing the project documents.
Cos, are you muted?
I hope not.
No, he's good. I think he might be on different interpretation.
Yeah, I can hear him.
Okay. Can you hear me better now?
You're good.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just curious where in the process this tool is working. Is this a tool to help people sort of edit and compose the descriptions that they're developing for project documents, or or at some other point? Because my thought is, and one of my interests is to try to take project documents that do exist and then develop perhaps descriptions out of those, or somehow facilitate the composition process rather than facilitate composition itself, or facilitate the writing process, which is anyway, yeah, if that makes sense.
So if I understood correctly, you want to know where in the process we use our tool, or we can use our tool. And the tool is desired to help with two different phases, I would say. The first phase is while people set up in our internal IT system, or in the IT systems of the other organizations like GIZ or KFW, while they set up the data for our projects. While they do that, they should use the tool to just check if everything that has to be in there is actually in there. That's the first moment where this tool is used, and that actually my responsibility in the ministry. So Fabio is in the IATI community and is doing all this work, great work, and that you do here in this community. And I'm kind of in the internal data quality management, and I also use this back-end batch version. where I do statistics with the tool. How good is the data from this organization in this regard? Are there like specific, like maybe one organization always misses out with the objectives and the other is using text that are really hard to comprehend or so. So I'm doing this statistical analysis in the end, and I also get in contact with the people that are in charge of projects with very bad descriptions. So that's basically the two sides of the tool. Fabio, if you want to add, you can. I hand over.
Oh, I think all good. Thanks, Dory.
Thank you, colleagues from BMZ. That was really helpful. As I said, we should move on to the next presentation, and that will hopefully leave us time for a wider discussion as well. So I appreciate Espor has a hand up, but I would like to get on to the next one as we have the time now. So Alap from AidInsights will screen share now and show two tools that use IATI data and AI. And whilst you do that, Alap, if you can screen share. We met. I think you were with us in the virtual community event 3-4 years ago when you were building dashboards with Tableau and other tools. So it's really interesting for me to see the conversation we had in the community with your work then and now. And I know you're going to talk about that. So over to you, Alap. Thank you for joining us, and we're looking forward to this too. Thank you.
Thanks, Stephen. I guess I'm sharing my screen, right? Is that?
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. So yeah, I've been an IATI data user for the last few years. So hello, everyone. I'm excited to introduce AidInsights.ai. It's a AI-powered platform designed to answer critical question in international development. Who is funding what, where, and how can we understand it better? So behind that simple question lies a world of complexity. Our goal with this tool is to make navigating that complexity feel natural, intuitive, and powerful. It's mostly aimed at donors, implementers, researchers, journalists, and decision makers alike. As Stephen was saying, I've worked with IATI data for several years now. In fact, during my doctoral research, I built a few dashboards using IATI to explore aid effectiveness and funding flows. It's robust and transparent data set with huge potential. So with AidInsights.ai, we wanted to go a bit further. So we saw an opportunity to leverage the advances in AI and NLP and then respond to the rapidly evolving expectations in the data space. So what we are trying to achieve is make the data more accessible, meaningful, actionable using the new age tools and power of intelligent automation and language-based interaction. So traditionally exploring aid data meant filtering by country, sector codes, dates, manually stitching together spreadsheets. That approach is powerful, but only if you already know what you're looking out for and how the data is structured. But what if we could flip that? So AidInsights.ai lets you ask natural, intuitive questions, and you'll get meaningful answers which are contextual based with no need to understand the underlying schema or attribute nomenclature. So like for example, you can ask who funded health projects in Kenya in 2023. Another example could be which organization supported renewable energy in Southeast Asia over the last 5 years. What's the UK aid spending in education in fragile states? Another example could be which donors are most active in gender-focused programs in Latin America. With COVID funding, what funding went into COVID response in Sub-Saharan Africa between 2020 to 2022? So instead of manually selecting filters and trying to guess the right sector codes, you just ask your question, and the system does the rest. We have built this platform that removes the need to understand the vocab. So if you know your question, the tool will handle the rest. That's the idea. So how does it work? Basically, we have designed a two-tiered system. So first is kind of query understanding. So your natural language question is interpreted using our custom NLP engine, then it identifies the countries, sectors, timeframes, funding types, and maps this to IATI compatible attributes. Once that's done, we have got a structured execution and summarization. So that interpreted query, it's then converted into a structured API call to the data stores. Once the data is retrieved, we apply combination of standard rule-based compute for aggregating totals, timelines, statuses, and donor contribution. Followed by this, we have an LLM-driven summarization. So we have used different models. So we have used GPT 4.1, we have used Claude, we have used Sonnet. We have tried out different models. So to present a clear and contextual human readable answer. So that's a hybrid model. So this hybrid model ensures you get deterministic answers grounded in the data rather than the probabilistic outputs from the general purpose LLMs. So with that, I'll try and give you a live demo. I hope I'm still sharing the screen. So let's say, who is funding solar projects in India? Okay. So, and then I'll hit search. It takes a while. Right now, under the hood, it's making a call to IATI's API. Once we get the data back, we have got a contextual answer over here. So right now we see that answer. That's not probabilistic. So LLMs do hallucinate. So here it's kind of coming from the data from the repository. We have got 272 details on 272 activities, and then now we can explore this further. So let's explore full dashboard. So this takes about 30 to 90 seconds. So while it processes, here's what's happening behind the scenes. So first the question, it's deconstructed. Now once it's deconstructed, then we map it to relevant IATI fields like India as a country, solar, energy, etc. And then we performed structured querying and enrichment pulling from the live data store. The results are then aggregated, cleaned, and analyzed. So finally, LLM processes the data to generate smart summaries and insights while keeping us grounded in the facts. And here we are ready. So we have got the summarization. So we have got the big numbers over here. Then we have got the summary for that particular question. So we have got our overview and strategy. We have got 3 different insights. So we have got executive summary, energy, sector analysis. So this is based on the data that's fetched from the IATI repository. We have got geographic distribution. So this will be very useful for questions like who's funding in sub-Saharan Africa. So you do see that kind of geographic distribution, or where are the gaps in funding. So that's overview. We do have financial and temporal analysis for that. So we do fetch the data from budget and transactions. So we make calls to 3 endpoints: activity, budget, and transaction. So here we have got the financial analysis, you've got your trends. Also, it's giving us strategic insight. So for this, it did take us a while to generate that, because we were using a bit of compute expensive model to generate this insights. And that's the reason it took us a while. And then over here, we have got our standard visualization. So we have got our activity cards with status of activities, and then reporting org for that given question. Then you have got your insights and analysis. So it's a visualization we have created. So this status, it's activity status breakdown. We have got country view, which is again very useful when you have a question related, like who is funding dairy products in Southeast Asia. Then you do see a chart showcasing country breakdown. But this is showcasing those activities, but then you have got country details tagged to that particular activity. You have got a timeline showcasing start dates for those given activities. And then you've got your top 10 organization funding for that given question. Here at the bottom, what we have got, it's activity table. So I did come up with 272 activities, and we've got a list of those activities. And then there is a search bar, so you can still search, and it passes through search query, basically whatever it's included in the description or in the content of a given activity, and then you can search it through. Right now, this is, I think that API calls off, so it's fetching the data in original currency and then also making the conversion using an external exchange rate conversion API. But I think it's not connected, so that's the reason it's showing that's down. But yeah, you have got details of a particular activity. Let's say if I want to see what's happening over here, I click those details. I see full-fledged description along with sector codes, transactions, what's happening in terms of documents. The other thing, it's still under development. So last week we saw a presentation on links, document links, and it's very important that we leverage LLM and the documents we have in the repository. So what we are trying to do is enable user to chat or get answer for a particular activity. So it's again going to be a chat-based interface, basically trying to answer any given detail for that activity based on the links from that documents. But that's in the next iteration. And yeah, so here we have got we've got details for that particular activity. We've got context, everything that's out there. At the top, we have got all this organization, so you can drill it down what's happening in that, but for that particular question. So who is funding for solar projects in India, and that this other reporting org. Also, what we have done, it's we have got the aid transparency index. So like we have used publish what you funds to 2024 index, so we do see the ranking for a given reporting org. There is a possibility you can export this to CSV. Also, there is a possibility where this could be embedded. So like, let's say it could be embedded in your portal or on your website. Or in your implementation tool, you can embed that. So it generates an embed code right now, and you can use iframe to embed that in your organization. So that's a bit about this tool. I also wanted to showcase, I'm still okay with time, right?
Yeah, thank you, Alap. Yeah, the time to show the other tool and then a couple of questions. We still have time. Thank you.
Perfect, thanks. So sorry.
And again, we appreciate the live demo nature of these things.
So this is basically, everyone's these days familiar with ChatGPT. Its user adoption's still rampant. It's almost at 500 mil. So what you've done, it's created this custom GPT. And again, we are leveraging IATI's data store API, making calls to data store API and getting answers. So when you use ChatGPT and normal ChatGPT, this is a custom version of custom GPT. But on normal ChatGPT, you won't get precise answers from the IATI's API. So let's say, for instance, if I'm asking a question, like show me recent education funding in East Africa. So right now it's searching its knowledge base for the custom GPT, and then once it's done searching its knowledge base, it'll make live call to IATI's data store API. And then we get that answer in ChatGPT. And this tool is available for anyone to use. And then you can still keep on going further with this tool, and then have a full-fledged chat. But the underlying, so here what it did was it did connect the activity endpoint, and then it did identify the sector codes for East Africa, identified the countries. So you see it's doing the country segregation over here, and then you've got a list of 10, but then you can drill it down, or you can chat with it, get details you want, but then it'll be coming from the API. So you can be sure it's not just hallucinating or it's just giving you random answers. And I think with the latest advancement, what GPT has enabled OpenAI's letting you use different models. So you can use 4.0, 4.1 for this custom GPT. So I'll stop sharing over here. So there are a few things coming in the pipeline, and then this space is rapidly changing. So for us, we are looking for feedback, opportunities to collaborate, partnerships, and looking for funding as well to keep it up and running. Yeah. So I'd like to thank for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Alap. Really interesting. Really good to see something. I mean, we only learnt about this, I think, a month ago when you contacted us about using the data store API. So it's great to see. Really interesting to work with. Appreciate it's a live demo of something. Does anybody have a question or clarification for Alap before we look at our third project, which is also using IATI data? So anybody got a question for Alap or clarification? As we wait for that, Alap, I just wanted to ask you, of course, I'm thinking about the IATI standard and infrastructure. How has that helped you, and what would you like to see? What would help you further?
So few things going forward. Maybe with the advent of this protocols that are in place, the data store API, the documentation is great, but we would like to see a protocol or so Anthropic came up with this protocol, and now it's getting adapted widely across the industry. So MCP, like a model context protocol server, developed by IATI for the API, and then that could be plugged in. That'll be really useful. Also, you saw during the demo, I had ingestion coming from an exchange rate API. If that's native to the API, and then we are just pulling that from the API, it's a great. I think it'll make developers' life a bit easier. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, and again, as we talked about last week, it's that balance between what does the initiative do and supply, and what others can do and make. So, thank you. That's really helpful to learn those couple of things. And with this, I think Alap will also have a discussion about the tool on IATI Connect too, and further details. Certainly, I see Annalisa one hand up at the moment. Is that correct? Espor. Thank you for joining us, and we welcome your question. I don't know if that's a legacy hand from before.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Espor.
Good morning.
We welcome your question. Yes.
I'm pleased to participate with you today meeting. Already setting my questions by MI, and I ask to please answer them, please.
Okay. Thank you. If we can make sure Espor has the right email address, we can answer the question there. Thank you very much. We have one more hand up. I think Mech, hopefully, a question for Alap about AidInsights, and then we'll move on to DevExplorer and have a look at that. So over to you, Mech. Very welcome.
Okay, thank you so much. I had posted my question in the chat. Yes, I'm Mech Spanda from Zimbabwe. I really embrace this initiative, and also I'm grateful, but I'm not sure now. My question is, so what is the, sorry, I put in the chat the guy strategy, but I wanted to say the good strategy. to the industry in concern? How is the buy-in? I wanted to say, what is the buy-in in the strategy to the industry in concern, especially various governments in particular? Thank you.
Thank you, Mek. Alap, any comments about the approach you're taking, the strategy you have with this tool, and discussions you may have had very briefly?
Right now, it's at a very initial stage, but we did showcase to a couple of funding organization, and they were interested, and then they see value in this tool. For, let's say, if a donor it's going to make a decision or have a concept note, they might find this very useful to identify and make a data-driven decision. And it's really quick. So let's say if you have a concept note for funding a project in Ethiopia for dairy, and then you have this kind of tool available, you'll be making the decision based on insights, and it's quick. Also, I think in terms of buy-in, I think we did hear from earlier on from BMZ as well. So there is buy-in in terms of tech space, I would say, and yeah.
Thank you, Alap. And also to add, I think as Yemi highlighted, for IATI, the next strategy will certainly place this in the center, and we would love to work with the community and everybody to understand how we embed these developments we're seeing in the future of IATI and the standard and other things. So let's keep talking here and online in other events. Thank you, Alap. Appreciate again once more the live demo nature. And now we have time. We're going to move to, I think, Seb from FCDO first of all, to introduce this next tool, DevExplorer, and the project. And then I believe, Olivier, you'll give a demo of this project. Thank you. Seb, hello.
Thanks, Stephen. Can you hear me?
Yes, certainly. Thank you.
Brilliant. So nice to meet you, everyone. So I'm Sebastian Martra. I'm a senior advisor looking at digital development and digital transformation in developing countries at the UK's Foreign Office. And so whilst most of my work focuses on how the UK can support digital transformation in developing countries, I'm also very interested in how the UK and FCDO can support improved aid effectiveness through digital data and AI. And as we all know, kind of knowledge is critical to aid effectiveness. And developing country stakeholders need to know what development activities are taking place in their countries. Development actors need to be able to track what results are being delivered and to successfully learn lessons about what works. For effective coordination and partnerships, it requires an understanding of who is doing what, where, and with whom. And accountability requires all stakeholders can know what development activities are taking place. But currently, the knowledge needed for aid effectiveness is too time-consuming to find out and synthesize. And that means that key tasks that people working in the development sector are doing that are needed for aid effectiveness aren't being done because they don't have the time to find the knowledge that they need. And IATI data, as we've heard now, and probably you all know because you're all involved in IATI in some way, has the potential to be the data that enables better aid effectiveness and accountability. It has about 1,800 publishers and publishing data on what people are doing, where, with whom, what they learn. And it's the closest we have to a data system that could enable aid effectiveness. But the problem is that it's still too difficult for the data in IATI to be used by people who need to use it. And so you've got a critical link in that impact pathway, which is broken. And so if the data isn't used, there's no incentive for high quality data. And if the data isn't high quality, people won't want to use it. You get kind of just a real kind of just blockage in getting the real value out of the data that you want to get out of it. But I think the exciting thing that we're seeing is that recent advances in large language models have the potential to bridge that link in the impact pathway. And so it can help people to get people using IATI data in a way that adds value to their work, improves aid effectiveness. And that was the core idea behind the DevExplorer project, which Olivier is about to demo. And we wanted to develop a proof of concept that could demonstrate that it was possible to make IATI data useful by kind of regular development workers in their jobs or development stakeholders. And that would mean that somebody working in one of our offices in a country around the world could, in say 10 minutes, get an analysis of every FCDO program operating in that country and analyze those programs for key results, stakeholders, or lessons learned. That somebody, a thematic advisor working in health or in climate, could look across every FCDO health program or climate program and quickly get a summary of which countries, which programs are working in, or answer specific questions that could help design a new program or partnerships. And we think we now have a successful proof of concept, and we've seen AidInsights and others tools. We've been running a community of practice where we've invited other people making tools to demo their tools. So we've now seen a number of proofs of concept that says, like, this is possible. And what we want to do next is really work with IATI and Open Data Services, IATI members, towards, you know, what could be a common kind of approach to improving the development sector, enabled by IATI data, enabled by AI, that can really deliver development impact. And so that for the first time, people who work in development can have the knowledge that they need at their fingertips. So that's the kind of scene setting. But Olivier is now going to give a demo. But if you're interested in partnering with us, because we are really actively looking for how we can take partnerships forwards, please get in touch with either myself, or I'm working on this with my colleague, Robert Phillips, who's also at the Foreign Office, and let us know, because we would love to have partnerships with other donors, multilaterals, but also with people who might want to use it within developing countries to understand what programs are taking place within your own country. So thank you very much. And I'll pass over to Olivier.
Thanks, Seb. I'm just going to share my screen here again. So I think the difference, one of the differentiators with DevExplorer is a little bit about what we did with the IATI data. Like a lot of value comes in the documents and not just the descriptions or the data or the sector codes and or the country fields and things like that. So what we've done is we actually, part of this process is actually augmenting the IATI data by extracting and augmenting this metadata with the document information. And so that, I think, is the key differentiator here, because we found that, as pointed out in the first example, not everyone writes good descriptions. Sometimes they might not include certain sector codes, or maybe the sector codes is not the way you want to look at the different activities or programs. And so the very first step in DevExplorer is actually to augment the data and work with a augmented data set based on the information from all the documents. And by documents, you know, it's regarding the same as the first webinar there around those document links. So those actual PDFs, the Word docs, the ODTs, all of those documents where a lot of richness is found. So I'm going to jump right in the user interface to give you an idea of what it looks like. So we actually, this is probably a version 4 already, even though we're still in beta. We started off with a chatbot, realized that actually a controlled user flow was a better way to present and access information. So there's really 4 steps. You search, you find the activities or programs or projects, you collect them in a workspace. You can see I've got a bunch of workspaces here with a bunch of different number of projects. So I've just created one for today, but this could be, you know, thematical or whatever your task is. Then you analyze them, and that's really where the magic happens. And then generating the report is kind of a meta-analysis, or the ability to work with all of the analyses across all those collected activities and projects. So right now, it currently includes a couple of reporting organizations from IATI. We are gradually ingesting all of them. You can select if you only want to focus, for example, on 2 specific reporting orgs. You want to do analysis from programs only, for example, from BMZ and FCDO, or only from CEDA and BMZ or whatever, or you can just do all of them. So I'll just give it a quick one. My background is in the wash sector, so the water and sanitation sector, so I use that. And what, very similar to others, is this idea of query conversion. So what this search is actually doing in the background, there's actually 4 or 5 different searches happening in parallel. We're both converting the query to capture those different countries properly, because IATI doesn't have regions per se. And so you can see the breakdown is done there. So it generated its own kind of query for us, generating a typical table of activities with the ability to jump to the website where that activity is found, and your classic filters to go in. And the main purpose of this space is to collect. And so what I'm going to do is just randomly collect some projects just for the purpose of this exercise. I could select all of them. You could have a workspace with over 120 activities if you wanted to, if you're really doing a broad analysis versus a depth analysis. So I'm just going to grab a few here. And there's a lot of help here that can guide you on what to do next. But I've selected here 5, and I'm going to collect these activities into my workspace. And so now that we've done that, we have our workspace. And this is your landing page of your workspace, because you might want to be doing multiple analyses of it. One thing to say about the search is that the search is just not in the metadata. The search actually is within indexed document content. So if there was a program that mentioned water and sanitation within documents, or it was a very simple query there, but if you're looking for more complex things, then the fact that it's actually searching within the document, it's returning the activity, even if it found the information in the document. So that's why we ingested the documents. The next part is the analysis, and this is, I guess, where the magic happens more. So what this analysis tool does is, for every single activity or project in your workspace, I've only got 5 here, you can essentially, there's a simple version of this, which is, I just want the summary of lessons learned. And so that will extract all the lessons learned in the documents of those 5 activities. Sometimes you might want to be specific on the document type, and this is really tapping into those document links. So we've ingested all of the documents for all of the publishers in the system. And so in my case, I really only care about annual reviews, let's say, because I'm going to focus on lessons learned and project completion reviews. This again is IATI standard document types. And then the second option here is to decide on what kind of format, because it's going to be doing this for each activity. And this is a batch process that's going to happen live. So I'm going to do a very first version, just a short paragraph. There's actually you can fully describe what you want to do here, because it does use natural language. So you can say, I want comma separated themes that only include these 5 themes. So you can focus very specifically on the type of output that you want for that, for each of those batch process, each analysis. So I'm just going to pick the preset here. I could say lessons learned only focused on gender, or lessons learned focused on nutrition. But again, for the purpose of the demo, I'm going to pick a preset. So what's it's doing now is it's performing what's called a RAG, or retrieval augmented generation. It's looking into each document for each of these programs. It's doing this in parallel. It's retrieving any kind of lesson that it can find within each of the programs. And it is then creating a summary based on the output that I defined, that I said there. So I think I said 100-word summary. And it's generated that analysis there. So when I open the analysis, I've got my 5. And if I had 100, it would do 100. And it does them all in batches in parallel. So the last test I did, it took about 1.5 minutes to do 100 activities and generating 100-word summaries. For each of the summaries, for each of these activities that I selected, you can see that it generates references to the specific document that I can click on and open. And it will also reference and provide a source to the statements in that summary. So I can do another type of summary just to show you. I'm going to focus on, let's say, very specific bullet points. I'll say like max 5, to keep it short. And so it's going to do maximum 5 bullet points per activity. I'll even say max 10 words. Maybe that's a bit short, 15 words per bullet. Again, very natural language, resilient. So that's my custom. I'm going to stick to, actually, I'm going to stick to my annual reviews on that. And then I'm going to focus on key challenges. And again, so this is a second analysis on the same workspace. that it is going to go and retrieve this from those specific types of documents and then generate, instead of having a summary, because maybe you want an output in bullet point format, it will then generate that. So it takes a minute. And so now we have our challenges in bullet point format with references for each of those. And as you can see, it respected my 5 bullet limit and it respected my word count for each bullet. Obviously risky, if you try and control too much of it, you coerce a little bit what you're trying to extract. So you've got to be careful with that parameter. But again, there we are for all of those. So finally, once we've got all our analyses, so at this point, you can stop here. You can select all of these. You can export these as a table. You might want to do further work in Excel with this. Same thing with the document, this kind of format. You can select them, export them as a CSV or Excel, and work with it. There is a further step, which is, we call it products, really as kind of a meta-analysis, which essentially will take this level of intermediary output, this data, and generate a report out of it. Again, same concept. So what you see here, these custom prompts, is just ones that I've used before. So actually, I'm going to use this one that I wrote. Like, you could just do a 1-page summary. What I'm going to do here is a brief 200-word summary, starting with like the top 4 themes. So I wanted them to take all of those key challenges that we saw across all of them. So this process is looking across activities, not for each activity. It's writing an overall report. Again, it's focusing on just top 4 themes. I'm giving it a lot of leeway in terms of what those themes are. Obviously, you would probably be very specific. That prompt can be, half a page long if you want to really guide how it's going to write this report and use the data. And so there you go, top 4 themes. Very short, because I said very limited word limit. And then the main references from where I took that information. Again, exportable. Right now we're PDF, but we can export that in doc and others as well. So some of the things we're working on is really working on these analyses. So give some guidance and some examples of how to do this well, and then also be able to share the workspace with others, because you might have colleagues working in the same thematic area. You want them to be able to see these analyses or generate their own analyses or build their own report products like that. So I'll leave it to there. If there's any questions, feel free.
Excellent. Thank you, Seb. Thank you, Olivia. It's really great to see. And again, the reference back to last week with the document links, but also the line through from BMZ and AidInsights, I think is really interesting. Whilst we just wait for questions from people, my question to you is always going to be about IATI. So how was the IATI standard and the infrastructure useful to you? What would you like to see help you further, first of all? And then hands up from others for questions, please. Thank you.
Yeah, I think obviously, like, starting off with a centralization of the data was huge. Having to generate that ourselves would have taken months, significantly months more, and much higher compute costs as well. So there's a huge value in having a centralized space for this data. The metadata as well was, again, the fact that you have a standard makes a huge difference. We find that, a lot of, if you take outside of this, a lot of organizations will have their own, library, their own data standard, and it's just very, very complex to put that all together. So the centralized nature of this is huge, and which really let us really just focus on the hard part, which is getting in those documents and working with the document data. In terms of next steps, I think, it was mentioned by the previous presenter, building on protocols that are more AI friendly is something that would be really interesting to explore, and being able to bring in some of that document data within the data source rather than doing it at the application level like we're doing.
And I just wanted to add to that, because I think, so one of the things that is really powerful about IATI is it is an existing partnership. And one of the hardest things to get is everybody coming together and agreeing on a common approach. And so I think that is where IATI offers the most value, is that it's an existing partnership around international aid transparency data, that it's got a long-standing history, and people are bought in, people are engaged, people support it and want to see it kind of continue into the future. And that is a great starting point. But as I said in my kind of brief intro, I think there really needs now to be this kind of bridging that gap to use, bridging that gap to actually making the IATI data actionable. And so that's the kind of really what we would hope for in sort of next steps is, again, for the FCDO to play its part and to work with others in bridging that gap. So yeah, back to you, Stephen.
Thank you, Olivier. Thank you, Seb. Yes, yeah, that was really, really helpful. Again, to think about the initiative and where we've come over the past 15 years and how we can bridge and further that. Thank you. I see now 5 hands up, so I'm limiting it at that because we've got 12 minutes left. So these can either be questions for Seb or Olivier or any other speakers as well. I'm going to start with Anisha, and you're very welcome, Anisha. Over to you.
Thank you, Stephen. My question is for the presenter. I just wanted to ask about the analysis tool that he just spoke about, and just to understand, like, does it capture very granular information as well, or do I need to like really upload all the sources that I want the tool to be searching from, and then it produces the analysis for me? Over.
Sure, I can answer that one. So the analysis tool will it will do a search, so it won't take all of the documents that are connected to the activity within IATI. So you'll have a project that is in the workspace, and it will, because we've pre-ingested all of the documents for all of those projects, we're able to perform a combined, what we call keyword and semantic search across those documents. And those documents have been broken down into chunks. They've been broken down into paginated chunks. So your analysis would be able to pull, if there was a lesson learned mentioned on page 57 of an annual report, it would find that, it would take that chunk, and then it would include it within this analysis summary, provided that your request is semantically similar to that. So the concept of a lesson learned, you would probably want to be quite specific in your prompt to say, lessons learned around finances or around. So provided that the document has that information in it on any page of it, is able to extract that. So the quality of the analysis is directly linked to the quality of your prompt and your question. So that's why we want to give more examples of how to prompt properly to do higher quality analyses.
Thank you so much,
Anisha. Thank you, Anisha. Thank you, Olivier. And yeah, we also know that there's the difference in how organizations publish IATI data with the standard and training the models accordingly, which is really interesting. Thank you. Henriette, over to you for your question. You're very welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for this presentation. Super interesting. I have a question on the Development Explorer, and then in the context of the tremendous drop in ODA across many different donors, including all the big ones, like we're talking about 25–30% cut. So if we're talking about using IATI data to enable aid effectiveness, do you have a way of, in your tool, for example, to look at the UK project or the FCDO projects, those which continue and those which are closed, and to see what the difference in development effectiveness is? And especially, for example, I'm a donor who wants to increase funding. I'm Japan, and I want to know, where should I put my health funding? Where should I put my money? Can I use your tool?
Thanks. So currently DevExplorer is focusing, I would say, a bit more on depth and breadth across program content. I think you would want to we have to decide how far we go on. I think the previous tool would show a bit more of the metadata and be able to analyze the kind of like the financial specific data, and you're looking at aggregates across the metadata around these projects more than the specifics around the quality of the program or some of the key insights within the program's execution. So I think if you're looking for, I would say, a combination of depth and breadth across programs, DevExplorer really meets that, because I would say it helps design programs better, because you're able to extract the insights that before, was put in an annual report and that no one read. So that's really the difference with this. I think if you're looking for more metadata level, and if you're just looking at, you know, open, closed, and numbers, then I would focus on a tool that really focuses on the meta-analysis, which we are considering adding. It's not significant, but it is a different kind of analysis.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Henriette. Thank you, Olivia, again. And we'd really like to discuss this ongoing with the community about how we share tools and approaches and models and user stories. So I think it's really valuable insights there. Thank you, Henriette. Now we have Bill with your hand up. Over to you, Bill. Thank you.
Thanks. You're seriously impressive that. My challenge is at the search level. I mean, you mentioned digital transformation. I try and extract information on digital transformation in Africa, and you know, the current taxonomy doesn't fit my taxonomy. It's really difficult to extract. I mean, if you just take the word internet, it sits in every single global fund project. So how does one refine the search function you know, in areas which don't fit into DAC codes very neatly? Secondly, you mentioned just working with 100 records. What if you want to work with a lot more than that? Even if you're prepared to wait for half an hour, can you do it?
Sure. The search was an interesting one because we spent way too much time on fine-tuning our search algorithm for it. We ended up deciding on a mixed method of essentially, like I said earlier, combining a keyword-based search with keyword variations. So we're actually performing multiple keyword variations that are LLM or language model generated. So if you put, you know, digital transformation, it'll think of the semantic space around that. It will use keyword variations as well as using what we call vectors or embeddings, which are, think of them as a semantic representation of that information. So when you say bank, like bank near the river, the word bank is not the financial bank, it's the bank by the river. That won't work for the translators, I apologize. But it basically understands that. And so your search is much more performant. And then we re-rank those results to try and get you at least your first 100 or 200 or closer to what you're looking for. So that we spent a lot of time, and we continue to refine that algorithm. And then secondly, yes, the way that we process the activities are a batch. So yeah, it will take longer for 500 activities. I haven't tested it, to be honest. I think we limit it right now. But because we're just doing sequential batches, we're not confusing the language model by dumping at all this information. We're really doing each activity one at a time. So 10 or 1,000 activities, it's just a question of waiting a little longer to perform that analysis across each activity. It becomes a bit more challenging because if you're then looking at the meta-analysis, you're dumping quite a lot of knowledge from 1,000 activities into a report, which then at start might getting confused or hallucinating a little bit. So that first process, absolutely, I would limit that the second part, which is to produce that like overall summary. But that probably becomes so general, you might not want to use that anyways.
And I just wanted to add to that and say that part of the process really depends upon the user kind of knowing how to use the tool, so kind of being able to give some reasonable prompts, but also in understanding what they're looking for. And so this goes into when you do a search, you will get back a quite broad set of programs, which will hopefully be, as Olivier said, the ones that are most relevant to what you're looking for. But there is this kind of almost filtering phase where it really helps to get a good output at the end to go through and have a look at the programs yourself and use your own knowledge. So for example, if I do an analysis of digital transformation programs, I will have a look at the programs themselves and say, is that really one that I'm looking for or not? And then include it or not. And then I will also be able to think at the next stage, what is the kind of key question that I want to get out of this? And so it really is about kind of the user working well with the tool in order to get out a quality output at the end, because you will need to do a little bit of that sort of bring a little bit of your own understanding to the job.
Thanks.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Olivier. Thank you, Seb. Yeah, certainly. And we find this as well with organizations trying to use IATI data across themes, trying to pinpoint and find activities to work with. So again, it's a common issue and good to talk about. Finally, to Cuz and then to Simon. So Cuz, first of all, and minded of time as well. Thank you, Cuz.
Great, thanks again. I've based on last week's study, I have a sort of practical question, right? So if I understand this model correctly, you're talking about ingesting all of the ingesting and digesting all of the document links that IATI contains already, which is I imagine a very large central repository that would be expensive to assemble and manage and keep up to date. So my question is have you thought about what that would require or how it might be managed going forward?
Yeah, we have initially thought of it. I say we've started thinking about it. The data is actually cheap to store. IATI is big, but it's not that big in the grand scheme of the internet. So even millions of documents broken down in even an average of 50 pages per document, you're talking maybe 500 million records is very manageable when you think of how other search engines and other data sets are. So it is a lot. It's but it's actually not that expensive to run per se. We are developing ingestion pipelines per publisher. And that is due to the challenge of each publisher putting documents in a slightly different way. So if we can solve that together, yeah, that would be great. So we are ingesting update and pipelines for each publisher so that we can continue to ingest. So if there's an updated record within IATI, we can then just run the retrieval ingestion for that, follow down the path of where that file is, retrieve it, ingest it using a process, and then so we can keep those running, that maintenance method of ingestion. And Duncan, who's actually on the call as well, has been working on that for the last few months. So yeah, that's our first solution. Ideally, we can augment the initial IATI data set with that, so that we don't have to run that, or we can work together on building that.
Thank you, Cuz. Thank you, Olivier. Yeah, and again, thinking back to the IATI strategy for the next 5 years, how do we collaborate on that important issue? Note, Yemi has shared with me that IATI is in the process of becoming a registered digital public good, and that could be another call next week maybe that we discuss that and the implications of. We have one more question from Simon. I apologize, Salou, but we're at the half an hour now. So Simon, a quick question before we wrap up. Over to you. Thank you.
A quick one, and so this is responding to Seb, but it's for anybody really. So IATI's data tools typically aim to do the work that users of IATI would have to do on their own otherwise. So Seb, when you mentioned bridging the gap, it made me wonder, what are the common tasks undertaken by all three of our presenters today? Sort of a bit more open question than Cuz's one, but I think it's got quite a bit of overlap. But anybody who wanted to pick up on that?
So just on that very quickly, we ran a bunch of sort of user needs sessions with lots of different sort of Foreign Office advisors who use development data in their work. So these were like health advisors, governance advisors, etc. And it was kind of trying to understand what are the common tasks they do. And so part of it is, I guess, simply put, almost the whole program lifecycle. So from designing the program to implementing the program to evaluating what programs have achieved, that whole kind of program lifecycle is a lot of set of tasks that a lot of people work on and need to know program information for. So lessons learned from other programs. The second thing is much more about portfolio mapping. So understanding the landscape of what is a set of programs doing what. And now those two are kind of specific, like, you can do that within an organization. But one of the things that we're really looking to do is looking at what is the value in the kind of cross-organizational tasks that we do. So that would be, where would it be good to partner with other donors? Where are the gaps? Those sorts of questions. So I think those are three of the areas that we've kind of identified, sort of use cases that people within at least in the Foreign Office, do on a regular basis.
Thank you.
Thank you, Simon. Thank you, Seb. I think it'd be really useful for us to also, bring some of those use cases into the discussions online as well. It seems like we could have a call every week, I think, at the moment with these topics. So first of all, thank you to all our contributors and presenters today. And thank you for everybody for coming along and joining us for these last 90 minutes. Please join us on IATI Connect to continue the discussions. We'll send a follow-up email with all the links and all the places to do that, and enjoy the things you've seen today. Coming up in September, we'll have another set of calls about another dimension of IATI, about organization, identifiers, and the network of data. And then in December, we'll be wrapping up this state of data exercise to produce a review for us to share and discuss. So plenty to come. Thank you again. Thank you for everybody for coming along. Thank you to our interpreters, and enjoy your afternoon. Much appreciated.